Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms, and it's time for another Flames of War project vlog, and this is number 5. Now, I promised that the vlogs from now on will be a little bit more focused and less kind of wishy-washy and confusing if you've watched right from vlog number 1, when I was planning on playing a completely different game system. And I suppose they start properly, in my mind, from here, a little bit more focused on the project itself. And first off, as I mentioned in the previous videos, that I'm going to be focusing on Normandy, late war, and D-Day really, and Breakout, that kind of period to start with. And first off, I'll be painting my US Airborne. I've watched far too much Band of Brothers, so it's very, very easy to see where the inspiration is going to come from there. I've been reading up on the campaign. I'm really taken with Carentan. And I think that's where I'm going to kind of focus the forces around in terms of some historical games and themed games later on. But I also want to make my collection fairly sort of robust and flexible, that I can turn it into 100-point lists for matched games. I'm not really going to go to tournaments, I don't think, but at least I can play kind of club style games at a fixed point level with the kind of players who play that kind of game as well. I'm very, very relaxed myself about games and like to play historical refights, and I'm happy that points don't match, but I'm also very open to playing standard 100-point games and things like that as well. So I want my collection to kind of work with both things. So with that in mind, and sitting there with my couple of boxes of Hit the Beach and a couple of extra boxes of things that I'd added to it, I really wanted to make sure that my next purchases were relevant historically, but also relevant to building a list or 2 or 3 lists from. And I went back to Duncan from Shoot and Scoot and sent him a few messages and said, help me out. What would your ideal purchases be in addition to those Hit the Beach sets, based on the kind of themes I'm interested in? And he very, very kindly did lots and lots of work for me. He worked out a D-Day parachute rifle company list for me. He also worked out a Sherman based list for if I wanted to have a more armor based list with just one platoon of rifles supporting, and he did loads of pointing me in the right direction for loads of background reading and history that could match. I think he'd prefer I was doing the 82nd rather than the 101st, but so be it. But thank you, Duncan, for, I'm not sure you're watching this, but thank you if you are. Really, really handy. And he sort of worked out the initial couple of lists for me and helped me with purchases. And I'm going to pop those lists on the screen if they're not already on there, just to give you a bit of an idea of the kind of things that we were looking at, really. And he worked it around a full rifle parachute rifle company, so all 3 platoons, some mortars, some jeeps, some 57mm, and then in support some priests and some Shermans. And he also gave me this kind of list to work through, because I find it quicker to paint tanks, and I was concerned that it might take me a little bit longer to paint the infantry. So I wanted a list that I could kind of field a 100-point game that was more tank heavy if it happened to go that way to start with. And he knocked up this list for me as well, which is obviously Sherman Tank Company based, with support there of a Greyhound cavalry recon unit, some priests, and then 1 rifle platoon as well. So they were super, super, super handy. So from that, I went to Battlefield Hobbies, lovely web store. I think I've bought a few things from them recently, and I purchased what you now see on the screen. So I picked up some 105mm M4 Shermans, a packet of a set of M7 Priests, the Armoured 81 Mortar Platoon, Airborne Jeep Recon Platoon, the Recon Patrol, and some 57mm as well. So that really kind of rounded out the collection, the stuff I had from the Hit to the Beach sets and the other bits I bought, enabled me to do those 2 lists. And then chatting to some other people as well. I've been chatting to Alan Roberts, which again, if you happen to know the Flames of War scene in the UK, you may have heard of Alan. Now, I don't know the Flames of War scene, but I know that he was was fairly well known a few years ago, playing the game, and was involved in running a few events and things as well. And he watches something called the Plastic Crack Podcast, which I do as well, which is a few other YouTube channels do a weekly podcast. And he is attending a one-day convention that they're running in October, and so am I. It's the third time they've done it. And he messaged me, and we got chatting about Flames of War recently, and we're gonna have a game. So we're having some hobby evenings where we were chatting over on Facebook Messenger, and painting away at the same time, and we were discussing the lists and things. And he gave me a third idea of a list, which would work slightly differently to Duncan's as well. I'm going to pop that on the screen now as well, and it just gave me a slightly sort of more balanced force in some ways, but all usable. And it's two parachute rifle platoons. I think the list he originally did for me had some gliders troops in as well, which I quite like the idea of, but I don't want to put more infantry at the moment. So there's two there. There's still the 57mm and the Jeeps, but it's a slightly different support just to make it kind of balance out for what goes in reserve for 100-point games. And I quite like this balance of this one. And my plan is to just build a larger army for more of the historical refight games. So I'm quite happy to add in a third rifle platoon there and take it above 100 points, because as I said earlier, I'm not too worried about the way the points work out when I'm doing historical refights. And I'll spend a little bit more time and definitely come back in a later vlog when I talk about designing a scenario for Carentan using this army and the future Germans, which I will be working on. But as I said, Ala was really helpful, and it led to me buying another box, and then these are the M5 Stuart Tank Patrol as well. So quite a few new acquisitions there. And while we're talking about Aled, he also sent me some bits. So he recently went off to the UK Nationals, and he managed to get an extra 2022 Flames of War tournament objective. For those of you who don't know, it looks like they do a sort of every year they release a sort of a bespoke objective, and this is Piper's Charge. And I believe, I'll pop a little image on the screen, I believe that it relates to the Devil's Charge supplement, and it's supposed to be that scene you can see on the front of that, which is really, really cool. So I'm looking forward to getting that painted and having some fun with it. And it's just looking at it inspired me to maybe make some more 3D objectives based around the armies that I have, which will be a bit of fun. And he also sent me a box of loads and loads and loads of more stuff. So there's loads more airborne. I haven't counted them up there, but there's enough definitely for another couple of platoons there. And I think they may well form the basis of a later winter Bastogne themed, bulge themed airborne list. And then there's some more Shermans there as well. So I've got a lot of Shermans, but I'm going to be working on some British soon, and those may well come in handy for some British ones as well. So thank you very much, Aled. What a top bloke, just sending me free models in the post. So I just mentioned about going to CrackCon in October and playing a game against Alice, and this looks like it's going to be my first game. And we're looking at doing 100 points, but being pretty relaxed and making up our own scenario. And I won't go into all the details about that here, but I'll probably cover it in the vlog that's after it's happened. And now we are very, very fast approaching the beginning of October. So I have just over 2 and a bit weeks to get everything you see in front of you painted. And that's the 100-point adjusted list based on Duncan's that I did with Aled. And I'll pop that up on the screen a little bit as well. And as you can see, there's not a lot of it painted whatsoever. The only painting I've managed to do being off with the kids over the summer holidays and family holidays, and I've just got over a little bout of COVID, which is fantastic as well. It slowed me down somewhat, so I'm under pressure to get it all done on time. Now, luckily, if I fail to get it all done, I know that Aled has quite a large collection, and I know he's going to lend me some models, but I really, really would like to have my own models to game with. It's one of the most important parts of gaming for me is painting miniatures and playing with my own painted models on the table. So I am going to really do my best to get these done, and I'm going to focus on just the list So far, all I'd painted was the one Sherman, which I did a painting tutorial for, and I'll pop a little link in now if you haven't come across that. That's a 75mm. I've not got any 75mm on the list. I've only got 76s. So those are down there. So I've got 4 of those to paint. I did one or 2 teams, so the little command team and a standard team in one rifle platoon. Again, to deal with a bit of a test and to do a painting tutorial. And again, I'll pop a little link into that tutorial now. But other than that, I haven't painted any more. So I knew I needed to sort of crack on and get on with it. And if you're eagle-eyed enough, you will spot there in the center that the Jeeps have all been painted as well. So that's something I have done since, and I have recorded a painting tutorial, which will hopefully be the next video out after this one. Now, my approach is probably going to be to try to do it all in one big batch slowly. So I'm going to finish off getting everything else primed. I'll get everything zenithal, and then I'll be in a position where I can kind of grab an hour here and there and just do a stage. And the first stage of the inventory, if you have watched the painting tutorial, is actually using contrast over the whole miniature, apart from the face and hands. So that will help me no end. I think at least get a base colour down, and then I can just sit there and slowly add the couple of layers of highlights that I have. And the tanks, again, will go fairly quickly. Be using the airbrush to get the main colours down. It's the kind of thing, once they're primed, I could sit there and probably like 2 hours, I'll probably get the base colour down for all of them, but it will be all the extra little details, the weathering, the adding the decals and things. But if I kind of break it down into elements, I should be able to get through it. It really is a matter of free time. I'm actually playing another game at that event, one I arranged first, and that's to play a game of 0200 hours against Martin, who's if you haven't heard of Seventh Sun channel, please do check it out. It's fantastic. And I'll be playing a game there with him, and I've got 8 French Resistance in 28mm to paint for that, so I need to get those done as well. So it's time is definitely against me. Well, let's have a slightly closer look at the only completed unit in the whole army. But I suppose at least I've had time to get everything I need at least built now. Before anyone adds in the comments, a lot of that isn't glued down, so the guns aren't glued to the artillery bases, etc. The odd infantry miniature is left loose, so I can get around and paint them all. But I did glue some of them down. But anyway, crashing on. So I really love these models. They're really, really hard to hold and still show you on camera because they're so diddy. But I was really impressed. Such lovely little plastic kits. I mixed them up a little bit. You've got the airborne build, so to speak, but I did change a couple. Like put these sort of bags on the side of this one, which wouldn't be the build out for the airborne, at least as per the instructions, so to speak. But I wanted to add a little bit of variety. But they're just such lovely little miniatures. I had loads of fun with them. In fact, I'll pop some images on the screen of the painted ones now. It's a lot easier for you to see rather than me just wiggling around very, very tiny models in my fingers. But yeah, they painted up fairly quickly, to be honest with you. And I did a painting tutorial at the same time, or at least filmed it. So I was surprised at how quickly they painted up. You probably do the whole set of 4 within 2 or 3 hours or so, which isn't too bad at all. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It's nice old rambly stuff, and they always will be with my vlogs, and I'm unapologetic about it. So those of you who want to follow along the progress will do, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. Those of you who prefer the sort of the more focused hobby-based ones, like the painting tutorials and themed things, rather than just me telling you what I've been buying and painting, then this might not be so much for you. But take it and leave it. Hopefully those of you that have enjoyed it will continue watching the future ones as I expand the force more. Hopefully I'll get another vlog in before I go away to CrackCon and play the game, and hopefully it's a really positive one showing you the whole army all painted, but we shall see. Anyway, my name is Stuart. I'd love to hear from you, so please do comment on the video and feel free to get in touch via social media. There's links in the show description to my Twitter, my Instagram and my Facebook, so you can message me on there, comment on the video threads and things in there, comment on anything really. I'd love to hear what you're doing for your own armies, your own thoughts and things. I know that's not always easy to do in comments on videos, but however you want to get in touch, I'd love to hear from you. Any hints or tips, anything you've learned while playing Flames of War, painting, anything at all, just get in touch. I'd love to engage with you all. Anyway, take care, and I'll catch you soon.